Greetings, this is Ruby, the Nostalgic Catholic, with another Isaac Asimov short story. This one is collected in his own magazine, Isaac Asimov Science Fiction Magazine, of mid-December 1990. The story, by the way, also gains the cover. So you see these two boys, one is beating the other one up, and in the background, kind of a robotic skull sort of a thing. If you look carefully at the arm of the one on the ground, the arm is open and full of machinery. In other words, that one's the robot. Interestingly enough, you can see the face of the obviously very arrogant looking one that's winning, and the other one kind of just letting stuff happen. Now, there's really not much said here. It will contents list the story as Kid Brother Isaac Asimov, age 16. And so here we are, and the artwork, despite its obvious differences, is by the same artist, Gary Freeman. So, it's not easy to figure out. I have not been able to work this out. Is who the various figures are. I mean, the only thing I can be certain is I don't think that the big face here in the foreground is the robot. Now that could be the father who's an arrogant guy, or it could be the son that he's been raising to be arrogant and stupid. But meanwhile, you have this figure here with glowing eyes, suggesting that might be robotic. On the other hand, it kind of has long hair, and the person of the mother. And then there's this what looks like a sleeping child. Maybe that's the robot. I don't know. The Kid Brother robot. Well, let's start with the blurb. Okay. Kid Brother by Isaac Asimov. While the Kid Brother in Isaac Asimov's powerful new robot story may not love his family, he himself inspires deep and terrible emotions. No other artwork associated with this, and I did not observe any textual differences of any consequence, in fact any at all that I noticed, between the text as it appears in the magazine and how it is collected into Isaac Asimov's Gold. So, and it appears there also as Kid Brother on page 91. So, Kid Brother. Pardon me, got that 91. Okay. The text is the same as far as I can tell. So what happens in this? You got I think, a rather dysfunctional family. From the standpoint of probably one of its more dysfunctional members. Because they have a son, Charlie. You can't get it. This seems to be in a time when you don't have just to have kids, you have to get approval to have kids. Yeah, it's, I don't know what kind of a society that is. But in science fiction, you often have societies where everybody's lives are run like that. I guess it's thought this is supposed to be how things are going to be in the future. Well, I do know that there are people who want to take control over every aspect of people's lives. And probably that would sooner or later be included. But at any rate, that story isn't about that. It's just a small detail in the background context. It is told first person from the point of the father. And he every now and then takes a moment to make it clear that he's talking to a police officer. He's giving the story, and he says, look, just tell it the way it is. You don't want me, I won't say anything. I don't really care. And so, alright, so they let him talk. So he talks. And as he goes to, he's describing what's going on. They couldn't get approval for a second child, nor could a second child come along. And then finally, his wife decided, well, let's buy a robot for a Kid Brother. So they get the robot. Took some persuasion. He wasn't keen on robots, didn't really want a robot, as a part of his household. But there was the robot. His wife had paid for it from money from her side of the family, and this robot is brought in. It is apparently a three laws Asimovian robot, but they don't go into too much. But I think clearly that has put this in as part of the truly robotic stories. So, meanwhile, Charlie, the son, is growing up and getting very belligerent. He's kind of being spoiled in that way. And the thing is, and I think it's deliberate, I'm sure it is, the idea is that the narrator, the father in this, is so dense he doesn't know the difference between a bully and a leader. His boy is growing up to be a bully, and he supports that. And he thinks that's making a leader out of him. It doesn't, but he's obviously an ignoramus about those kinds of things. The wife, of course, would like the boy to try to not be a bully and have friends and be a more normal child. But the wife finally gets a robot instead, so at least it's like having two kids. It takes a while for the robot to earn his place in the household, but he does. The same father puts up with him on the basis that, well, Charlie can beat up, this other little robot, we just call kid or kid brother, as much as he likes. It won't really hurt him, won't really damage him, and since he's a three-law robot, he'll just simply, well, that was a good blow there, Charlie. And he gets up again after being kicked over, knocked over, whatever, like you see on the cover of a magazine. So, and in time, it makes it, he finds it at least useful having the robot around to kind of pacify the mother as well. Because the robot, when not being the kid brother to Charlie, will be helpful around the house, do chores and errands, and just be generally helpful and thoughtful. The way Charlie is not learning to be helpful or thoughtful. Well, there's a failure somehow, and it's not clear exactly how this failure is. There's a microfusion unit. It's not clear if that microfusion unit is somewhere inside Kid Brother, the robot. Because these robots are powered by some kind of nuclear fusion reactor sort of a thing, made of some pretty heavy metals. Actually, titanium is not that heavy of metal, so that's not very accurate either. If there's tantalum, that would be more believable, or platinum, iridium, Come on, it's a positronic robot. It's got the three laws. You can have platinum and iridium in its brain, right? Those are heavy metals. That would make sense. And in fact, the robot is obtained at a time when Charlie's only 10, but he's like a couple years older and bigger. He's a bear of a kid, healthy at least. I guess you get that. But he likes beating up his little brother, and that's considered okay. And Kid Brother takes all that, helps around the house, and makes things civilized. And then there's the fire. The house has a fire. A fusion unit starts the fire. Apparently, the robot, Kid Brother, does not seem to be aware of what happened to Charlie. Maybe he's in a different room at the time, so he doesn't observe. Well, I won't go into further detail. There's an actual story here, and it's worth thinking about as a story. And it makes me wonder sometimes if a robot is necessarily the best influence to have around, because they will spoil you. They'll do what you tell them to do. They'll take any amount of abuse and not care. Probably not even be damaged by any. Maybe kick them around, throw them off the roof and stuff, and barely you can dent them or scratch them or anything. It won't really matter. They'll just take it, and if something does get dented, you can always replace that part very easily. And life goes on. So, and of course it won't fight back because of the three laws. So, I'm kind of like, the story really isn't about the robot as a robot per se. at the robot's role and influence in the house. He has become an enabler, and that's unfortunately that seems to be part of the program. You can be an enabler of all kinds of bad and destructive and self-destructive behaviors because the three laws won't get in your way. You want to drink yourself to oblivion and screw up your liver. They won't say, "Oh, we can't allow humans to come to harm and make you stop drinking." Yeah, no, you're doing it to yourself, and we're not medically programmed anyway. So, and if you want to grow up to be a criminal or something, a serial killer or anything, well, you're not being harmed, right? You'll fight to keep your life just, because you are a human. That's the first law. They didn't drill into the laws. In fact, the mention of this kind of hasty. There's some 3 laws. I don't remember them exactly. This robot follows them. That's it. But that definitely ties this into all the rest of the 3 law robots you had in iRobot. But what kind of upbringing is that? Well, all I can say is it's not the kind of upbringing I would go for. I can remember I had care of a small child who was about 2. And at a McDonald's, which had a little playland, I'm kind of sitting inside, eating my hamburger, looking out the window, seeing the little boy play with other kids. And just out of the blue, there was no provocation or anything. I can't really hear, but I could see. He pushes a little 1.5-year-old girl down just like that, just to be annoying, just to be, I don't know, ornery, mischievous, whatever it was. And I zipped out there in almost 0 time, yanked him up, pulled him away from the whole thing, made sure the little girl was fine and so forth. And then I pulled him aside and I said in no uncertain terms, "I will not have a bully for a son." I think that meant something to him. He never did anything like that again. All the time I knew him. Fortunately, that's another story that I won't get into now, but at least it was a good, parenting moment. That's all I have to say. It's been, because this story is really almost more about that than the robot itself as a robot. Thanks for listening.